truth matters. And I've stood up alongside those victims, and I will do it as Attorney General.
This is a calling for me. This is not a job.
I'm running for Attorney General because I believe that we're in a battle for the soul of our state and our nation.
I have the qualifications, the will, and the work ethic to be your next Attorney General.
The members you see up here that will be out here soon, one of them is going to be the next Attorney General for the state of Texas.
And we are starting with the Islamification of Texas. As Attorney General, what further legal actions will you pursue to address these concerns?
Sharia law is organized crime, period, and I will treat it as such.
To be very clear, when you talk to the experts, the Muslim Brotherhood has a specific plan to Islamify the state of Texas. You're seeing it unfold in Dallas-Fort Worth right now. And as Attorney General, I will go after the 600 plus organizations that are advancing Sharia, undermining Western civilization.
Islam is incompatible with Western civilization. And in spite of that, they've developed a dark network of 501c3s, nonprofits, corporate entities, shell entities, PACs, political candidates, grant-making entities that have formed a network to rise the crescent moon over the Lone Star State. As Attorney General, I'm going to treat the Sharia pushers like the feds treated the mafia in the latter half of the 20th century. How many mob bosses did we get for committing murder? The answer is not many. But we smoked them out like I'm going to smoke out the Sharia pushers by an overwhelming force of investigations on process crimes, financial crimes, investigations, lawsuits. Attorney General Paxton has already started this fight, and as his endorsed successor, I'm the one that you can trust to continue that fight, to go hard and push the Sharia out of Texas.
Under the Biden administration, the federal government failed to adequately secure Texas's border. If you are Attorney General under a future Democratic presidential administration, what steps will you take to ensure Texas can exercise the right to protect its own border?
Declare an invasion, do it quickly, and mean it.
My opponents on stage are doing exactly what I predicted they would do during my opening statement, and that is to give a litany of various bills worked on, as though what's needed are just more laws. But we knew that when Trump took the White House, we didn't need new laws. We just needed somebody to step up and enforce those laws. And everybody on this stage is going to say, I'm going to secure the border. I'm going to fight a Democratic administration. But for me, I'm the only one who has actually done it.
Well, as First Assistant Attorney General in 2015, we took Obama to court and beat him on deferred action. So some of us have in fact been there and won on these important issues.
Don't be fooled when Chip tells you that he was Paxton's chief deputy and he wants to cite his record there. Remember, he was so ineffective, so bad at serving as Paxton's deputy that Paxton fired him. Now that's not often covered in the media, but I hope that the media pool does their due diligence, because they will realize that even though he wants to cite that experience, it was so bad he shouldn't be running on it today.
Well, that's simply not true. But I know someone who both of us work for that's endorsed me, and that's Senator Ted Cruz. And he has put his full confidence in me to serve as the Attorney General of Texas, Ted having served as Solicitor General for this great state. He knows what is necessary in that office, and I'm proud to have his full support and endorsement.
Thousands of unborn children in Texas continue to die via mail-order abortion pills. So as Attorney General, how would you ensure the protection of Texas babies, even when doing so may put you at odds with the Trump administration?
I'm 100% pro-life. That's why I've been endorsed by Texas Right to Life. And abortion is murder, period. Let me be blunt and simple with that. And these abortion pills are killing babies. That is why I fought to change the law this past year to stop them from flooding our state.
You can pass all the pro-life laws that you want all day, but if you don't have a battle-tested legal fighter, a true MAGA attorney, as President Trump described me, your laws don't mean anything. I'm ready to defend this stuff in court.
Many young Texans have suffered irreversible damage to their bodies caused by doctors who prescribed them puberty blockers, administered cross-sex hormones, and performed surgeries such as double mastectomies. In 2023, Texas banned these practices for minors. So, as Attorney General, how will you ensure affected Texans can seek justice against the doctors who brutalized them?
It is horrifying to me. So, will I fight it? Will I use every tool? Will I work with the legislature to make sure there are civil remedies for these victims? Yes, because I've always stood up for victims, and this is just another class of victims that I would fight for.
I've been criticized for allegedly not being strong enough on this issue, despite supporting legislation to remove funding and to stop these terrible procedures, and are grotesque. The truth matters, and I've stood up alongside those victims, and I will do it as Attorney General.
There was a bill in Congress, and it banned it outright. It was a very strong bill. Chip Roy had an amendment that would have allowed it to continue. It would have rewarded the transgender lobby. It would have rewarded Gavin Newsom and allowed these private transgender surgeries to continue in those blue states.
Mays is exactly right about Chip. Chip did what exactly President Trump described about him, which was to make a mountain out of a molehill, to grandstand, to make nothing out of an issue. Why? Only to concede ground to the trans lobby.
So the legislation in question was authored by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was leaving Congress 2 weeks later and who has since gone on a tirade attacking President Trump. The fact of the matter is that legislation is dead. It is dead in the United States Senate, and it will not do any of the things that my opponents say it will do, because it won't become law. And it is amazing to listen to Republican attorneys general candidates standing up saying they want massive federal laws to step over the state of Texas. That is a new frontier.
How specifically will you hold accountable any institutions that fail to protect the right of women and girls to sex-exclusive spaces and athletic teams?
Absolutely, we're going to protect women and their right to personal and private spaces. But I would do everything I could as Attorney General to make sure that all the public places that are under this law must respect the right of women to have privacy, whether it's schools, institutions of higher education, athletic locker rooms, whatever it may be. I think the Attorney General needs to step in.
Two of my colleagues here on stage in the Senate have worked on bills to ensure that that common sense reality is upheld. What they have never done in their lives is litigate, investigate, sue, or appeal against a school district, a political subdivision, a governmental agency, a public official, anyone taking those bills on offense. I'll say this again, and I'm going to keep threading this needle in a lot of my responses. You can pass all the legislation you want. You can get all the A+ ratings that you want from all the right groups, and I like that. But if you've never turned those statutes into offensive or defensive weapons throughout the justice system, you ain't ready to be Attorney General. And I'm the only one with the record who's done it.
One of the most important roles of a state leader, and as Attorney General, is use of the bully pulpit. And one of the things you have to do with this sickness is expose it. So it's important to point out that Leah Thomas is in fact a dude. And you have to be willing to stand up on the floor of the House or in court or in the public square and say it. You can't let it just slide by.
Crime is a top concern for many Texans. Would you use the Attorney General's office to investigate or challenge district attorneys if their leniency appears to be contributing to rising violent crime?
As Attorney General, I have committed from day one that within the first month of taking office, I will seek the removal of the Dallas County District Attorney, Travis County District Attorney, and Harris County District Attorney, because I will not allow these awful leftist, insurrectionist, communist, Soros-funded district attorneys turn Texas into something it never was designed to be.
As far as the rogue prosecutors go, I wrote that bill. That was the bill I wrote. And it cannot be done on day one, like some claim they're going to do, or in the first month. It is a process. It's a constitutional and statutory process.
This idea that I'm saying things that can't be done is exactly the sort of loser mentality why Republicans often don't win. I'm the only one on this stage who, in my position at both DOJ and as Paxton's deputy, who has wielded the tools and the weapons of the law in creative ways. Don't be fooled by the kind of Republican that says it can't be done. We have to go through a process. If you have the courage to get something done in the justice system, as Paxton has shown us for over a decade, you can get it done, and I am going to get it done, despite her misgivings.
If it was something that could be done, I would ask the question, it begs the question, that why hasn't Paxton already done it?
Let's talk about marijuana.
Marijuana today is not the marijuana of 50 or 70 years ago. These things are now concocted to be paranoia-inducing hard drugs. I don't like widespread use of recreational marijuana. And if I find that these district attorneys, who I was blasting just a few questions ago, are not prosecuting marijuana offenses, I'm coming after you.
We should be enforcing the law in the state of Texas.
If a U.S. Supreme Court seat opens up during Trump's second term, whom do you think he should nominate?
I hope it's a very qualified conservative woman.
I might say Senator Mike Lee if I was going to just throw a name out there as one of my best friends in Washington.
Ted Cruz, but even though he said he won't do it.
We've already talked about Sharia law. We've already talked about the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, and we need to do those things. We don't need to repeat that, but you have to do it. You have to stand unequivocally alongside Israel. You have to be willing to stand up and say that you stand with them in the face of all of the hatred being directed toward them. There are segments of our population who don't want to do that today. I am proud to stand alongside our brothers and sisters in Israel, and will do that as Attorney General.
You each have 60 seconds to make your closing statements.
Because I've worked hard, because I've been effective, because I have real results, I have strong support from law enforcement, from prosecutors, from the victims' organizations across the state. They know me, they know Joan, they know that I will fight with every breath of my being to make Texas safe and strong.
I'm not a trust fund kid spending my family's money. What I did do is survive cancer 15 years ago when I was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And when I got through the other side of that, through the faith in God and through the love of my wife and family, I promised my kids, I promised my wife that I would leave it all on the battlefield to try to save this great state and this great nation.
We need an Attorney General who is battle-tested, who is proven, who's been endorsed by Paxton to succeed him, to wage war and win on behalf of our conservative, Republican, Christian, Texas, and American values. And that's Aaron Reitz for Attorney General.
Now, what we don't need is someone as an Attorney General like Chip Roy that has spent 10 years fighting President Trump, defending Liz Cheney, calling us MAGA effers, and we could kiss his you-know-what if we didn't like it. We can't afford that in the AG's office. And look, that's why I'm running here to defend Texas and defeat the left. Now, I'm not retreating from Washington, D.C., because I'm never going to Washington, D.C. I have always known that the fight is here. We don't have another Texas to move to.
That's the end of tonight's debate for the Republican candidate for the Texas Attorney General. Thank you to State Senator Mays Middleton, State Senator Joan Huffman, Aaron Reitz, and Congressman Chip Roy. And thank you to the Republican Attorneys General Association for hosting this event. I'm Allie Beth Stuckey. Good night.